Hello, everybody again, and welcome to our last session of SGO Virtual IBC 2020. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Eva Panyan, and I'm Marketing Manager at SGO. Together with me today is also our CEO, Miguel Ángel Doncel, and Adrian Gonzalez Diaz, Mistika Boutique Product Manager. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, Eva.
Good, really good, thanks.
So in today's session, Miguel and Adrian will speak about common content delivery issues and reveal how you can fully automate the delivery pipeline and implement a totally dependable, reliable, and cost-effective resource optimization with Mistika Boutique and Mistika Workflows. Just before we dig into the presentation, I would recommend you to make your Zoom window full screen so you can see better all the operations that Adrian and Miguel will be doing. And also, if you have any questions during the session, please place them in the Q&A panel you can find in the lower section of the Zoom screen. All right, so when we speak about delivering a project, it seems that most of the problems arise when the main artistic and creative part of the job is actually done. So preparing different versions of the project, packing the content, uploading it to different platforms and services. I mean, everything takes time. So Adrian, why don't you first show us how we can optimize some of these processes already in Mistika Boutique?
Sure. So in this presentation, what we're going to see is how to build a delivery ecosystem using Mistika Technology. I'm quite sure that all of our participants today know that the delivery process doesn't start really when you press the render button. It just starts much earlier by preparing the version, managing all those versions together. When we're talking about delivery, we're not talking only about delivering the final version that is going to be used commercially. We're talking about as well of delivering different versions for different departments like VFX or quality control for the customer if we need it. So basically, delivery at the end is a very complex process where you need to manage quite a lot of things. And we need to build an efficient system to manage all those versions. So in this presentation, we're going to see how to manage all those different versions, prepare all those versions for delivery using different techniques and using different options by using the unique time space of Mistika as the main ally for managing all those versions. We're going to start with the most basic approach, the one that maybe the new users for the new users of Mistika is more obvious. Then we will move to a more advanced approach using advanced stacks where we can just manage several versions using the same master grading of our project and the same media, etc. And then we will move to the third option, which is basically an evolution of the second one, where we will use those advanced stacks, but in a more clear way using nodes and some marks, etc. that can help us quite a lot to manage all those versions for the delivery. And of course, finally, deliver the content, but not deliver the content in a manual way, in a way that I need to supervise every step of the process, but in an automatic way. So the moment that I just want to deliver something, I will make a whole process automatically without my supervision or without my operation. All right. So let's start by just taking a look to this time space that I have in here. As you can see, we have several versions. We're going to use this first approach. As I said, we are going to start with the most basic way. Let me explain a little bit how this editing works. It's a very simple editing. We have the media, we have a unicolor. It's a proper ACES workflow. Okay, so we are working in ACES CCT and AP1. We have our color grading, and for the delivery, we have Rec 2020, 1000 nits, and PQ. All right. So basically, we have here an HDR workflow, and this is like my master version. This is the version that I'm going to use for my master delivery. All right. Now, the moment the thing is, we normally need to create several versions, especially when we are working in HDR projects. We need to create an HDR version as well. We can use Dolby Vision. We can use the ACES workflow and use HDR10. So basically, we have several approaches to deliver this kind of content. So in this particular case, if I have this situation, all right, with my master version, let's say that is already graded and it's already finished. Now I want to create the secondary version, which is my 709 version, right? So the most obvious way to do it, especially for a new user of Mistika, is just duplicating this and just move it below or just close to it. It doesn't matter, okay? We can just move it wherever we want. The time space of Mistika is extremely flexible to do this kind of operations. The fact that you don't have like fixed tracks and the fact that you have like an infinite space, an infinite canvas where you can put everything wherever you want allows us this kind of operations in a really simple way. So at this point, the only thing we need to do in here is manage this secondary version. So if this is the master version, this is our secondary version. And for this version, what I need to do is first create a secondary color grade in here, because normally I use the master grading, which is the one that I did for HDR. Now a secondary version, which is basically the adjustment that I'm going to do over the master grading for delivery to Rec 709. So at this point, what I need to change is the ASIS ODT and change it from PQ 1000 nits to Rec 709. And this will automatically make the change using the ASIS color management, the ASIS color science, and I will make all the adjustments in here. So in doing this, I have one version, which is in HDR, and another secondary version, which is Rec 709, all right? So this is maybe the most obvious approach for someone that is new, to have two versions, independent versions, but I can always copy, paste things between them using the match and paste. So at the end, adapting things from your master version to your secondary version is quite easy and is relatively fast. Now, when we're working with Mistika, this approach is even a bit slow because the time space is even more flexible. We have much more power there. We can use it for managing those secondary versions in a much more efficient way. So instead of having two versions duplicated, so we have the media duplicate in both, and most of the part is duplicated here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hide this so we don't get the mistakes. We're going to use this different approach. So let me show you how this works. So if I hide it, basically what I have is the same master version that I had in the previous example. My output here is a Rec 2020 1000 nits PQ version. So this is the master one. Now, instead of duplicating my media on the whole stack, what I'm doing here is basically create the secondary version on top of the master one. So basically, I have the secondary color grading or the adjustment, the grading adjustment for 709, and the ASIS ODT that I have in here is to Rec 709 there. Of course, I need to switch off or on, depending on the version that I want to deliver, the ASIS ODT that I want to use. So for example, if I want to deliver something for PQ, it's quite easy. I can just take the two layers that are on top of it, just hide it, or maybe disable if you want to make them visible. Both options would work in the same way. So you can just manage that in a really simple way. Now, if you want to deliver the Rec 709 version, what you need to do is take all your ASIS ODT, the PQ output, and just, again, disable or maybe hide it, depending on if you want to have a more clear view of your output or with a disable is enough for you. Again, up to you guys. That's just full flexibility for you. So basically, in that way, what we are doing is managing the two versions in the same space. And the great thing of this approach is every change that I do for the master version will affect as well the Rec 709 version. So I can combine both without the need of copy and paste between the different versions that we have, all right? So it's a much more efficient way because I don't need to duplicate or I don't need to take care and see, okay, I did that change in my master version, then I need to move that change to the secondary version, because sometimes you can get lost when you have hundreds and hundreds of cuts and shots. Basically, sometimes it's difficult to track all the changes that you did in your primary version and move all those changes in the secondary version. In this approach, you will need to care about that because every change that you make to the master version will affect as well to your secondary version, which is this one that you have here on top of it. All right. Now, if we take a look to this approach, maybe at this point can be really manageable. But if you add like more outputs, your stacks start to look a bit complicated. Again, Mistika time space allows us to evolve this idea and make it even more efficient by placing the effects and placing the different versions at different heights and put notes and to have a more clear view of what we are doing here. So using this similar this approach, we have evolved to this third option. Let me hide this. Okay, so we take a look to this. All right. So let me, oops, no, I'm going to disable, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start again step by step by explaining what we are doing here, all right? So I'm going to hide these two options here, and we have this first version. This is again our master version. As you can see, we have here the PQ 1000 nits ODT effect on top of my stack. This is like my master version. This is the delivery, which is the HDR delivery. But this is my master version, the delivery for that master version, which is the HDR. Every effect, every clip, every element in the time space can be renamed. So I can just come to here to the edit attributes and change the name. So in that way, I can just, instead of having just a simple ACES ODT name that we had before in these examples, all right, which is sometimes difficult to, when you're making like quite a lot of versions, maybe it's quite difficult to see, okay, this is the HDR, this is the Rec 709, or this is the QC version, I don't know. If you rename the effects, it's of course much more simple to do it. So basically what I did is basically take that the ACES ODT and rename it and put it in PQ 1000 nits. So in a very simple way, I know which version is this one. Now on top of it, I have, of course, my Rec 79 version, and I do the same thing. We have the ACES ODT rename it to Rec 79. And you can see I always leave in some space in between. So in case that I need to add more effects that are only relative to the Rec 709 version, I don't know, any effect, an enhanced effect, for example, if we want to soft a little bit those highlights, which is something that probably you don't need in the HDR version, but you need to make up in the Rec 709 version. Then you can add more effects specifically for that specific version, right? So we have here the Rec 709 version, and thanks to this organization of the layers with space between them, I can add more and more versions without any issue. So for example, here, if I disable this layer, we have the linear output. So instead of having the HDR and the Rec 709, we are adding the third version, which is the linear one. Why the linear one? Well, imagine that you need to share or move or render this material to your visual effects department. Normal, the visual effects department demands the media as EXR in linear light, etc. Or maybe you are working for a big network like, or you need to deliver a project for a big network like Netflix, and Netflix is going to request as well a linear output for their project. So at the end, to have a linear output is a very common scenario for many situations. So it's good to be able to manage that version in this simple way. Again, in this particular case, the linear output is not an ACES ODT, it's basically our own unicolor and our own color management and our own color science, which is the unicolor, and it's a unicolor, rename it to linear light, which of course takes, of course, this image it looks broken because I'm combining everything. I need just to hide the one that I don't want to use, right? So this is our linear output, which is basically a conversion between ACES CCT and AP1 to AP Serial and linear, which is our master grading. Our master grading, again, remember, is in ACES CCT and AP1. So basically, we are building those versions in the same space using the same stack, which again allows us to make changes in the master version, and all those changes will be adapted automatically to all the deliveries that we have. To make things even cleaner and even more clear, let me unhide this. We have here our nodes. In Mistika, you can always create a node. So for example, I can come here and create node and call master version. And now you can just finish it and you have a node for that part of the time space. So I can just organize all my deliveries and all the parts of the stacks in different sections using these nodes in here. All right. Okay. So these are the three approaches. I think the last one is the most efficient one, but you can use whatever you want, or even build your own, because in Mistika there are always several ways to do the same thing. These are three approaches for managing your different versions. And this is especially important when we are talking about delivery, because when we need to deliver something, now I can just hide and show the part that I don't want to use, and manage my versions in a very clear and visual way. Now, if we go to the output panel, we have here different render presets. You can create any render presets by saving the parameter that you're selecting here. I just created two for visual effects, which is basically the linear output, and we have the QC review, which is in a progress proxy in Rec 709, for example. Right. So let's say that we need to deliver something for the QC department. Okay. So I'm going to hide here my master version, because I want to deliver the Rec 709, not the HDR, so we can see it clearly. And I'm going to remove, of course, the linear light version, because if we are going to, I'm going to disable this. If we want to deliver something for review, we need to being able to play it and see it in a nice way. If we deliver something in linear light and EXR, you need a player that is capable of playing EXR in linear and make the transformation later to a different color space. It's more complex. So we're going to keep the thing simple by just delivery media to the Rec 709, all right? And we're going to use, for example, just a few shots in here, like those shots, just three shots. Let's say that we need to deliver only 3 shots. This segment of my time space just for reviewing, right? So I'm going to put here a name. I'm going to call it QC review version. Oops, have the review version, and I'm going to click here in Add to Render Queue. I can click in the foreground, and the difference is the moment that I click in the foreground, Mistika will start the render. Mistika Boutique, I mean. Now, this approach is perfectly fine. The only problem that you have in here is if you use your main system for rendering, you will need to wait until it finishes to continue the job using that system, of course. So, and as an operator, what I want is to have my my finishing system always available to keep to still work on it, or to work in a different project, or just continue the job in this particular project. So if I can just move that render to a different software, to a different solution, and keep Mistika Boutique always available for me for creative and for finishing, or for the finishing part, that would be great. Now, when you click in the render button, the problems don't finish automatically. I mean, it's not just the final button that you press. Normally, you need to move the media that you have rendered to a different location. You need to copy that media, move it to the different folder. Maybe you want to, I don't know, to deliver as well a version for your customer. In that case, maybe you need to add a watermark over that clip, and you need to organize the media following the format, etc. So all those steps needs to be done after pressing the render button. Now, the moment that I press this one, Add to Render Queue, okay, all those things that I've talked about it, about moving the media to the folder, to the proper folder, create a secondary version of this render for our customer and put a watermark on it, and upload that version to Vimeo, and send emails to the QC department and to our customer. All that process will be done automatically. I'm not going to do anything to make that process. I'm not going to supervise that process. It's right now, all that process is right now being done in the background. And to explain how this works, we have Miguel with us, which is going to explain how Mistika Workflows can manage all those processes automatically without the supervision of the operator. So it's your turn, Miguel.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrian. Let me share my screen. And okay, hopefully you can see it now. And yeah, as Adrian said, what we have done in order to to help in this example, the process is we have created a very simple workflow to do several things. But before showing you the workflow, which is this one I have here, let me spend a minute explaining a little bit what is workflows. And workflows is a tool that allows you to manage media, transcode media, and deliver files in a big number of different possible ways. So, but the concept is very simple. I could have, for example, a Canon file in my system, and let's suppose I want to send that sequence using an Aspera service. I can just connect those things, and this will get the content and send it to Aspera. Or let's suppose I want to have a watch folder, which is a folder in my drive for my local network, where I want to listen, and anytime something lands in this sequence, I want to, let's say, transcode, convert it to a DPX sequence, and then I want to get this DPX sequence and send it using Aspera. So here I can build any workflows that you can imagine. And using this logic, we did build a very simple example, which is this example for Adrian for this presentation. So the example has two parts, this part and this part. We have put both together so you can see the whole thing. This is the workflow we have created. Let me explain a little bit about how it works. In this part, we have a watch folder. And it's a watch folder for the VFX people. You remember Adrian was saying, well, maybe I want to send contents to the VFX people. So how I do it? Well, what we did is we did generate one drive, which is a network drive in our case, with which is the place where he will write the deliverables. And every time an EXR sequence lands in this folder, two things happen. First, it is sent using FTP to an FTP server. So you have in this node, you have all the credentials for the FTP connection. And every time an EXR sequence lands here, it will be sent to the FTP server. And when it finishes, it will send a Slack notification to the group. So the VFX people will receive a Slack message saying, we have sent the files to you, they are available or whatever. The second part, which is this part here, is a little bit longer because it does more things. It starts again with a watch folder, same than the previous one. And in this case, whenever he renders a ProRes file, for example, in this case, any MOV file, which is the ProRes file he was rendering, it does several things. First, it copies to a different place, so it's where the QC department will check the content. So it's moving the content to the QC folder. We are moving it and removing it from the original folder. We could copy it if we prefer to do it that way, but in order to save storage, it's probably a good idea to move it. And after moving that content, the system will send an email to the QC department, and it will say, okay, the following files are available for QC. So the people that has to review the contents will receive this email. And it will do another thing. It will generate also from the ProRes file, it will generate a low resolution H.264 version of the file to send to the customer. And this file, because we are going to send it to the customer, as Adrian said, we are going to add a watermark on top of the image. So we have our logo on top of the image we are going to use. We can define the quality we want to use in the transcoding for the file, etc., etc., etc. And this H.264 file will be uploaded to Vimeo to have it available for the customer. In this case, we are making the content that we are uploading public in Vimeo. And the view attributes is unlisted, so not everybody can see the content because this is a production which is work in progress. So we don't want to make it public. It is unlisted. So if you have the link to the content, you can see it. If you don't have the link, you will not see it. You can obviously, instead of making it public, you can use a password. So for example, we can use a password for the customer more advanced security. In this case, we are making it unlisted, so we can give you the link and you can take a look to the content by just having the link. And when the clip is in Vimeo, we send an email to the whomever, to the customer, saying, okay, dear customer, here you have the content uploaded to Vimeo, and we send the link to him. So this workflow is running in background for Adrian as he's working as an operator. So whenever he renders something, depending on the type of the render, if it is an EXR sequence, this one will be executed. If it is a ProRes file, this one will be executed. And by the time it finishes, the people will have received the emails with the information about the content that has been uploaded. So probably, Adrian, you have received at this point the emails because
Sure.
the file has been generated, etc. So I pass you back the connection, and maybe you can show our friends what we did. Okay?
Okay. So I'm going to share again my screen. There we go. Okay, so indeed we have now two emails. The first one is telling me that the following files, the ones that we have rendered, are available for QC in this path. Okay, in my system. The second one is the link that we have created for our customer by uploading the video to Vimeo. So I'm going to share with you guys the link so you can see that it's already done and it has been done during this presentation. So let me switch to here. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to paste it there. Okay, so now you should have it there. And basically all those processes has been created, as Miguel said, in the background. I haven't supervised anything because once the workflow work once, it will work the rest of the time. So once I have just built the workflow, I don't need to care too much about failures. And that's really important in any production. By using Mistika Workflows and combining with Mistika Boutique, what we are doing is removing human failures. We are just basically making automatic process that doesn't require the supervision of any operator. Just basically, if you need to change something, perhaps in your workflow, you need to modify your workflow. Of course, you need to build it again, but once the workflow is working, you don't need to care about that. Every time that you render something, in this particular case in EXR or in MOF, in ProRes, the workflow, the specific workflow for each format will be triggered and it will be done automatically. So this is an example of how can we build a full delivery ecosystem with Mistika Boutique and using Mistika Workflows to make all this process automatically, keeping Mistika Boutique always available for the finishing part, so I can be much more productive in my work by not waiting for the render to finish or anything like that, and removing any human failures during the transcoding and delivery part, which is an area where human failures always can appear because there are multiple variables there, and now those variables are managed automatically with Mistika Workflows.